Can I make a really cool three-dimensional shadow box work of art from just some scraps of paper and fabric from the 70s? I've assembled two pairs of scissors, a small and a large. I've got a variety of adhesives, some double-sided tape with a paper backing, acid-free single-sided tape, and a particular type of rubber cement called Best Test Paper Cement that I find works really well. Not shown in this picture, but you'll also need protective non-permeable gloves when you're using this paper cement. I've also got an inexpensive low-heat glue gun and a variety of pre-clipped paper ephemera from my collection. And here's my inspiration. I have this photo that I bought from a vintage reseller. It's from 1972 of a woman wearing an applique coat, and she seems pretty proud of it, so I'm thinking maybe she did it herself. And I've got a lot of other paper ephemera that's about early 1970s applique, so I think that's going to be my micro theme for my vintage fashion shadow box. Here's the shadow box. I've taken the back off and removed the interior. It's 5 inches by 5 inches. Don't worry, I'm skipping to the fun part now, but you can watch at the end of the video for details on how to measure and fold the risers. An important note I read on this paper cement bottle is that you need to wear protective non-permeable gloves when you're using it and be in good ventilation. The reason I'm using rubber cement and not a glue stick is, one, this is guaranteed to be acid free, and I'm not confident that the school supply type of glue stick glue would be as high of quality. And also, when dealing with vintage paper or fabric, it's better to adhere the more delicate material to a stronger, newer material. In this case, I've got offcuts of paper from my mixed media projects. This piece right here is a mixed media sheet, and it is basically a cardstock thickness. It's like tag board, except it doesn't have that shininess that I don't think would work well for adhering things long term. I like that this mixed media paper is slightly porous and seems to take the adhesive well. These words are clipped from a variety of sources, mainly from the early 1970s. I've got some words from a Simplicity sewing manual. I've got part of a cover of a 1970 Look magazine, and that little yellow fashion slip is from the cover of a knitting book from the 1950s. I find that it's easier if you apply the big clipping chunk fully adhered to your scrap paper, in this case the mixed media paper, and then once the rubber cement dries, you can go back with your scissors and trim down to a more precise outline. Keep in mind that when you're making a shadow box, it doesn't have to be all paper scraps. So here I've got some awesome wedges from an abandoned Dresden plate project that my friend gave me that's from her mom or grandmother's stash. And I want to incorporate some fabric into the shadow box. I'm slathering the watercolor paper, which is a little bit thicker than my mixed media paper, with rubber cement, and then I'm going to press this piece of cotton fabric into the rubber cement and let it dry. Then when it's thoroughly dry, I can trim it out, and there won't be fraying because the adhesive is going to hold it down to the paper so that there's not any stray threads coming off. It actually works really great. While I'm waiting for this to dry, let's go on to one I've already glued down. Then I can take my large scissors and roughly cut the flower out And then I can take my smaller scissors and I can cut more around the actual petal shape. And here's some ones I've already done. And I think these will look nice. Making this shadow box interior took a couple hours, so I'm going to speed it up and show you the highlights. Here I've got the back of a Simplicity sewing manual from the early 70s, and I am using the insert from the shadow box, which is a little bit less than 5 inches by 5 inches. I could have used rubber cement, but I also like to use double-sided tape, especially when it's a large area. So I'll use my thickest type of double-sided tape, adhere the one side, peel the paper backing off, and then press my paper onto it. The nice thing about double-sided tape is that it's instant. I don't even have to wait minutes like I do with the glue. Since I've got my own main image that I want for the center, I want something that will cover up the original spool ads model. So I found this insert from a sewing manual showing a running stitch with needle and thread that I think will work well. I'm also going to cut out some more of my paper-backed fabric swatches and see what should go where. Notice I haven't used the risers yet. I'm laying everything out just flat to figure out my composition before I start adding the dimension. It's a few minutes later and you can see I've started to get some depth by applying my tiers, and these tiers are simply pieces of paper offcuts from my previous projects of sturdy watercolor and mixed media paper that I have folded into these rectangular prisms, and then I have adhered them to the backing board and then adhered my other little elements to their top face. What's cool about these tiers is since they're hollow, you can apply things to their top face, and then you can also start applying things to their under face. You'll see I take a moment to check my frame and make sure that everything still slots in. This particular frame has about a 1/4 inch lip all the way around, so I need to make sure that all of my 3D elements are inside of that 1/4 inch margin so they don't prevent the slotting in of the image. I think my favorite part of this project was finding a way to incorporate fabric swatches that really went with the theme of what you would have appliqued onto your clothing in the 1970s. As much as I loved this original 1970s photograph, it just was really getting lost with the rest of this because it was so faded. So I've put it on some paper. I'll use it as a photo reference and draw it large and do it justice with a large watercolor painting later. And for now, for the shadow box, I'm going to switch to using one of these cutouts from the 1971 Butterick catalog. What I need to do now is take an X-Acto blade and cut out the negative space between the arm and the body. So I just used a blade and took that out, and now it's going to look a lot better. Layered. Won't be as distracting because there won't be a big glaring white spot. So it'll be just like this. Just to be extra sure that the things that I'm taping or gluing in layers stay, if there's room, I will use some of the acid-free tape and I'll reinforce tape it from the back. So I originally put some tape on the front side of this fabric and then lifted and stuck it to this layer, but then I'm also going to reach in the back and put some extra reinforcement tape there. I've played around with putting a few more things, but I've decided that this is a really nice point where anymore and I'd be gilding the lily. It's got a nice balance. There really isn't a need to put anything in the negative spaces here because there's such a busy background. So I'm going to go ahead and sign it and pop it in the frame. Here are some tips on how you can make a balanced composition for your shadow box. Notice that I chose a relatively simple shape. You can think of it as the letter S, but mirrored. And I built everything off of that shape. You can see it most clearly in the model's arms and also in that thread that's just behind her on the orange paper. Then everything else was built around that skeleton S. I also kept the colors to one limited colorway, even though the back is multi-chrome and basically has a rainbow of spools of thread. The middle and foreground restrict themselves primarily to blue, yellow, and green with a little bit of orange. Here's a side view so you can see the risers. The shadow box is about 1 inch in depth, and these risers are anywhere from 6 millimeters to about 24 millimeters in height. Notice the risers are narrower than the paper that I placed on top of them so that it doesn't show when it's in the box. If you're satisfied with the finished art, then you can like and subscribe now. But if you want to know exactly how to make the risers, then keep watching. If you're not comfortable winging it, here's a precise way to figure out the depths of the layers. My ruler doesn't go quite to the edge, but that's fine because I do want there to be a little bit of space between my highest level and the plexiglass. So the depth I'm working with is about 1 inch or about 24 millimeters. Essentially, I'm dividing 24 millimeters into fourths, so that will be 6 millimeters, 12 millimeters, 18 millimeters, and 24 millimeters. Those are the depths of the risers that I need to make. I've cut a strip of mixed media paper and I have marked it to 6 millimeters in depth. That's the depth of the riser I'm about to make, so that's the depth of one face. And now I'm going to fold it back and forth in an accordion method so that I get 5 faces. Watching someone accordion fold paper is probably about as fun as watching paint dry, so we're going to speed it up. I've gone a little bit past 5 faces. I'm going to trim it. Now I'm going to invert some of the folds so that I can wrap the paper into a square structure. And if the crimped partial face doesn't fold nicely, then I'll go ahead and trim it off. So I've got the 5th side wrapping around and overlapping the first face on the inside, and now I'm going to trim off the excess, and I've got a 4-faceted square. I highly recommend getting some double-sided tape that has a paper backing like this one so that you can stick one side and then peel off the paper backing to expose the other sticky side. It takes a second to get your fingernail under there, but it is still just an amazing tool. Then take a toothpick or something else to be able to apply pressure against your finger so that both sides are pushing on the adhesive to make it stick. Okay, so now we've got a nice roughly 6 millimeter riser that then we could, here's an example of something that's a good size for this. The desire is to have it cover enough of thing that you're gluing to give it structural integrity, but not have it so close to the edge that if you're looking slightly obliquely at the shadow box that you would be able to see any part of this. Here are the 4 different depths: a 6, 12, 18, and 24 millimeter set of risers. There may be some sharp-eyed viewers out there that noticed I didn't use the glue gun on my vintage fashion shadow box. Well, the reason I had it out is because the previous shadow box I tried, I did need the glue gun. Here's some bonus footage of that first shadow box design. This was an initial experiment testing out the adhesives, and I did learn, and this is something I expected, this pearl had been affixed with double-sided tape to the end of this umbrella point. The 3D objects that did stay really well, as you might imagine, were the ones with the low heat glue gun applications. Here's a better look at the final mermaid-themed shadow box. I hope that these examples and tutorial have inspired you to make your own shadow box art.